Before you started working here, I remember when you'd come in all the time with that redhead.
I was a different person back then.
How about now? Anyone waiting for you tonight?
No. Home is just me.
It's like I'm losing my mind.
Who am I? I was an Avenger, but I'm not a hero anymore. I have his face, but not his virtue. All I have is his name.
Welcome home, Vision.
This house is getting crowded, Vision.
Ultron! Human avatars only.
Sir, I cannot overstate the dangers of keeping him around.
Yes, but he is a...
Dad? Papa? Peepaw?
I'm a stranger to myself. That family wasn't real.
You sure about that?
I had a father, a machine called Vision.
Muzzle tough. It's a boy.
How is this possible?
Free us all and save your son.
I wish to understand my purpose.
With a genocidal maniac inside your head.
Nothing bonds a family together quite like mortal jeopardy.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. Marvel released their Visionquest trailer finally. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs, references. They talked a lot about the series at the D23 panel, so we will break it all down. We finally get to find out what happened to White Vision after the events of Wandavision, and James Spader is back as Ultron in the MCU. Love seeing James Spader come back as a version of Ultron. They've used him during the previous What If series, but the idea is that Ross Marquand was doing the voice, not James Spader. So it's been a good long while since James Spader has actually come back to do anything Marvel. And the joke that Vision, or White Vision, is telling him human forms only inside his head because he's hurting the budget, because it's really expensive to actually do them in their full AI, like full Marvel forms. They had a very meta joke about that during She-Hulk, like it's expensive to do Hulk special effects, go back to your human form so that we don't have to tax all the visual effects artists on this. This is also one of the reasons for the vibe of the series, where they visualize White Vision's head with all the AIs that Iron Man created inside his head, and they all sort of talk it out as he's working through all of his memories, trying to figure out who he really is, because he is the original version of Vision who just got all of Vision's memories unlocked inside of him. But at least when the series begins, he has no association with those memories. They're like him watching somebody else's movies as they visualize it in him in an old-timey movie theater watching actual movies. Like he's inside his head, inside a metaphorical movie theater, watching his memories as if they are the old Marvel movies. He's watching the old Marvel movies every single night. There's a lot of other stuff that they dropped during this too, like we see Scarlet Witch during the actual trailer inside his head. We see a version of adult Tommy, aka Speed, Wiccan's brother. There are a number of other big characters that also come back for this, and some actors that they had to change because some of the ones that played the original versions of characters weren't available. So we'll just point them out as we go through the actual footage. We'll just start at the beginning of the trailer and go through shot by shot, talking about Easter eggs and WTF moments, and how this is all building up towards the return of Scarlet Witch Elizabeth Olsen in the MCU.
I'm Elizabeth Olsen. Some of you may know me as Mom.
The series is meant to be the end of the Wandavision trilogy, the first part being Wandavision, second part being Agatha All Along, which they referenced during the trailer, this being the third part, and it's all about sort of like the birth and then return of their family, so to speak. They used Agatha All Along to introduce the adult version of Wiccan. Now they're using this series to introduce the adult version of Tommy, and then eventually Scarlet Witch will return during Avengers Doomsday or Secret Wars at some point. So the idea during this trailer that Ultron actually tells him, you need to go find your son, save your son, also free me, like Ultron wants to get out of his head. Of course he wants to reassert himself. But it sounds like by the end of the series, he'll be reunited with Tommy, and then they will go off to try and find Wiccan and find their mother, Scarlet Witch. Like, what happened to her? So this is all meant to take place before the events of Avengers Doomsday, obviously. Then at the very beginning of the trailer, they answer a very big question that people have had since the end of WandaVision several years ago. Where has White Vision been this whole time? He just flew off to who knows where to stew in all of his original memories and figure himself out. But now, at the beginning of the trailer, he's at an inn working at a bar, and the woman says, "You used to come in here with that redhead," and on the bar he sees Wanda and his name Vision carved into it with a heart, meaning that he used to come here with Scarlet Witch. So I think this is meant to be in Scotland, and it's a reference to Avengers Infinity War when they were hanging out together when he was still in human form. So the woman who owns the bar is remembering him when he was in his human form with Wanda. It kind of seems like this is a motel, and he just used to come here to get it on, like have sex with Wanda, like they just got it on and hung out at the bar. It totally makes sense that White Vision would retreat to his hookup place with Wanda to just stew in his memories. This is like the place where he used to get it on with the person that he loved. So for the last couple of years, he's been working at the bar here and just sleeping, so to speak, like sleep mode, hibernate mode inside the closet. That's the other joke, too. When she asks him about a home where he hangs his hat, so to speak, he goes into a closet and he just lives inside his head, and he creates a home inside his head to visualize his memories that way. He is wearing a sticker on the outside of his shirt. I can't quite read it. Some of the text is a little too blurry. Also, the text that tells you the name of the actual inn is a little too blurry, too. It's the old something. He makes the joke that he was a different person back then because technically he was, but technically he was not. Like, he's the same original version of Vision, but the way they messed with his mind and he got his memories back, he doesn't really feel connected to those memories, so his personality is meant to be very different from the original Vision, even though he has the original memories. When she asks him if anyone is waiting for him tonight, yes, technically it's all the AI consciousnesses from Iron Man's creations, his different robots that he's stored inside his brain. So the way they explain this series is that Vision went around the last several Marvel movies, this is a bit of a retcon, collecting the AIs of all these different things and putting them inside of his brain. So he has all the AI consciousnesses of all the things that Iron Man created just living inside his head. The reason why I say this is a retcon is because Terry Matalas, who did the series, he also did Picard Season 3. He's done a bunch of other stuff like 12 Monkeys, so that's why you see a lot of familiar people from 12 Monkeys and from Picard Season 3 during this actual trailer. He actually said he introduced that idea that Vision went around the previous Marvel movies. We didn't see him doing it, but he just collected these different AI consciousnesses and stored pieces of them inside of his own mind, which is also to explain why Ultron is still inside there too. A piece of his code survived after Avengers Age of Ultron inside of him. So this is meant to be the original version of Ultron during Age of Ultron, like the last time we saw him. He's just been inside Vision's mind this whole time. When he says home is just me, that's metaphorical and literal just because of the way his actual body, his mind, his systems work. He visualizes this all in the form of the actual house inside his brain that he creates, which is meant to evoke vibes of the Hex and WandaVision in their house during that. I also love the way they visualize this closet too with all the old 90s computer gear around him too. This also looks like 90s era. We see him inside his head. He's wearing the trench coat, the house. It's giving a lot of Vecna, Mr. What's-It vibes from Stranger Things, which was also a bit of a mind palace, so to speak. Like, he created this place that all these little kids were living inside, and they're kind of doing that with all of Vision and the AIs that he's collected. When the Marvel Studios logo comes on, it glitches and says Wanda.CRETX0 I think just idea for WandaVision and Wanda as in Scarlet Witch. The Vision on the nameplate is both meant to evoke the Visionquest comic book, but also the Vision as in he is the Vision. That's his name, the Vision. He's inside his own mind because that's the house. He starts to ponder who he is because he has his original memories, but he doesn't feel like that person, so he has no connection with them on an emotional level like the original Vision did, even though that is him. He walks into the old-timey movie theater to watch the old Marvel movies, watch his old memories, past the posters of his death during Avengers Infinity War at the hands of Thanos, about to rip the Mind Stone out of his head, then his rebirth in WandaVision as White Vision. We see footage from Avengers Age of Ultron, the previous Marvel movies. He references being an Avenger before this, but not feeling like one now, like he used to be a hero, but he doesn't feel like one now. I can't read the logo on his popcorn. That's also probably a reference to something too. Pretty much everything in this is a reference to something from the previous Marvel movies. Orla Brady here inside the house is playing Friday, the human form of Friday. Kelly MacDonald actually did the original Friday voice in the Marvel movies, but she was busy filming Lanterns when this was filming, so that's why they got somebody to replace her. She's reading a book on ego, which feels very Freud-coded, like id, ego, and superego, because they're literally inside his mind. James Darcy comes back as the human form of Jarvis, who Iron Man actually based his AI consciousness on, but Paul Bettany himself did the voice of Jarvis the AI in the previous Marvel movies. So there's a bit of a meta reference going on here. He's polishing the silver because he was the butler of Tony Stark and Howard Stark in real life when he was still alive. Originally, they cast him to play the original human form of Jarvis when Howard Stark was younger during Agent Carter episodes, then brought him back during Avengers Endgame, canonizing him even more to the MCU, although technically Agent Carter was meant to be canon to the MCU to begin with. So inside his head here, this is Friday, Jarvis, you, and the dummy robot from the original Iron Man movies. There's other AIs inside here that don't appear in the trailer, like Jocasta from Avengers Age of Ultron is also played by an actress inside this, but we don't see her anywhere in the trailer. So there's other AI consciousnesses that we'll see from previous Marvel movies in here. I can't read the logo on his bag of groceries here. That's probably a reference to something. The Infindiary Milk 2% feels like a Mind Stone Infinity Stone reference. Like I said, pretty much everything inside this trailer, everything around the house is a reference to something from previous Marvel movies. All the different colors also feel like they're color-coded for the different Infinity Stones. And we finally see James Spader come back as Ultron, but both the actual form of Ultron and human form Ultron too, like the Robert California version of Ultron, we make all the jokes. Got his big old grandpa beard on during this too. You also notice that Ultron is stored up higher in his house, higher in his mind, like a higher place in his mind, so he has to take the elevator through the upper levels of his mind. And inside the room where his consciousness has been trapped inside Vision's mind, it's a complete mess, like there are papers everywhere. I think there's just meant to be him stuck in here for so long, and that's why it's such a mess inside here. Ultron is a bit of a hoarder.
The most versatile substance on the planet, and they used it to make a frisbee.
And the interesting thing here with the way James Spader is playing Ultron during this is that he seems weirdly on board with everything that's happening inside his mind. But later in the trailer, he talks to Vision about freeing them all. So I think that he's slowly trying to work his way outside of Vision's mind, trying to escape and reassert control over his body at some point. Like, that'll be a threat during the series. All the other AI consciousnesses talk to Vision about the dangers of keeping him around. Like, this is going to be a problem eventually, which it eventually does become by the end of the series, it sounds like. My early assumption, though, is that something will happen during the series. Ultron will wind up helping Vision, but also trying to use that to his own advantage at the same time. Like, Ultron is neither totally evil or totally good during this, but eventually he will return to his nature and he will try to free himself. Inside this room with all the CRT TVs, it just seems like there's a bunch of different stations playing different types of programs. Like there's an animated program, there's a bunch of war footage, a bunch of tragedies. It's just things from Vision's mind previously, and maybe it's also news from the outside world, like the way that he communicates his body is connected to all outside world systems, because it's through these TVs that he sees the footage of the adult version of Tommy, aka Speed. So something about this room is just visualizing his connection to like the World Wide Web, the other systems, and he's just seeing security cam footage from across the world. When Ultron makes all the references to being Vision's father, call me dad, the whole idea is that Vision in the MCU is the baby of Ultron and Jarvis, making him the grandson of Tony Stark, Iron Man. He continues traveling through the upper and lower layers of his mind using the elevator to visualize that. He sees a flashback of Scarlet Witch killing him during Avengers Infinity War, another flashback to his birth during Avengers Age of Ultron. He sees footage from the Wandavision episodes with the younger version of Tommy and Billy, them during the Halloween episode wearing their comic book costumes. He and Ultron in the movie theater watching an episode of Wandavision from his memories. This was also the episode where Evan Peters debuted as Quicksilver, but it was really just Ralph Bohner pretending to be her brother. Very fun meta episode because Evan Peters played a version of Fox's Quicksilver. We'll see if that version of Quicksilver ever comes back. They did bring Ralph Bohner back during Agatha All Along, though. And the interesting thing here is that Ultron tries to convince him that the family inside the Hex was real, even though technically Scarlet Witch just magicked up the babies inside herself using her own power. That's the whole idea with her powers, is that they're based on the Infinity Stones. She's able to create stuff inside the Hex whole cloth, like she made the babies real. The children, Billy and Tommy, are real now because of her power. Not totally sure why everything outside of his house mind here is glitching, like maybe something is happening and he's getting a signal and he's seeing adult version of Tommy, aka Speed, on some security cam footage somewhere around the world. Maybe because they're giving Tommy the accent, he's inside the UK, and that's why we haven't seen him before, because he's been in another continent, basically. One of the other questions they'll have to answer is how he wound up in the UK, whereas Billy just wound up in the next town next to Westview. But you also notice the different way they're visualizing Tommy realizing where he comes from, who his mother and father, Vision and Scarlet Witch, are, the way they did with Billy. Like it was a big mystery during the Agatha All Along series because there was a spell blocking his memories. Tommy seems like he has no such spell working on his mind. We get some footage of him powering back up while he's also in human form, then floating in the air, then him traveling around. This is probably him trying to find Tommy. Adult Tommy is being played by Rardi Malika. I believe I'm mispronouncing his name, but he previously starred with Joe Locke, who plays Wiccan in Clarkson, so they've done stuff together outside of Marvel, but I don't know if Billy is meant to appear at the end of this in some sort of cameo scene. We will see. That was the whole idea at the end of Agatha All Along, is that he was actually trying to find Tommy, so maybe he does show up to pay off that scene from the end of Agatha All Along. It's not totally clear what's happening here with his mind space hex glitching out. Like, it just seems like somebody is trying to hack him or attack his systems, and that's part of the danger. My early assumption is that might have something to do with Todd Stashwick's Paladin character, who we see later in the trailer. We'll get to him in a second.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
you're such a nerd.
It's pretty deep. It's pretty deep, yeah.
It's not totally clear what's happening here with the red skies and all the birds around the house here. Just something bad is happening inside this place. But then they transition to another Scarlet Witch scene. So this is meant to be Scarlet Witch. She's watching television, the space is red, and he's being levitated with her power. So this is meant to be her in the straitjacket from the end of Captain America Winter Soldier in the post-credit scene when she's being experimented on with the Mind Stone with her brother, Quicksilver. We also saw another version of this from different perspectives during the Wandavision series and her own memories of it when she actually got her powers. The Mind Stone unlocked her powers, basically. We get a montage of a bunch of really crazy stuff with people seemingly attacking him. He pulls the firewall to keep people out of his mind, like protect his mind on a security level, but also they visualize it this way with like the actual alarm bells. My early assumption here is it's just people that are trying to capture him and use him for their own ends because he is so OP. His body is one of the most advanced weapons on the planet, and he is made of vibranium, so he is literally worth billions of dollars. Ultron tells him to free all of them, like he's trying to get out of the mine, but also telling him to go save his son Tommy. This girl is Lisa Molinari, played by Lauren Moraes. She's a girl that Tommy met in Juvenile Hall. She found a magical coat which belonged to a Peruvian god, Tibero, and granted her 2 extra pairs of arms. She initially became the hero Coat of Arms and assembled her own version of the Young Avengers. She and Tommy shared a mutual attraction to each other when they met each other again outside of Juvie, but she ended up becoming a mercenary to join the Young Masters of Evil. So we'll see how they use her during the series here. She does have some measure of powers, but it was the coat in the comics. I don't know how they're going to change that for the series. The man right after this is Paladin, played by Todd Stashwick. He's a Daredevil villain, actually. He's a mercenary who I believe is trying to capture White Vision, but it's not clear who hired him to do that. But we do see them go back to Madripoor, so it might have something to do with the power broker, Sharon Carter, or it might have something to do with, like literally anybody from the Marvel Universe could show up on Madripoor. It's just that when you go back to Madripoor, you think so much of Sharon Carter, Power Broker, because that was such a big deal during the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. But in the context of the MCU, Madripoor is just sort of this black space that anybody who wants to do anything that is illegal is totally free to do. So literally any Marvel villain from anywhere they could just pull out of their hat inside Madripoor. And it kind of seems like he's reunited with Tommy on Madripoor, so maybe that's where Tommy has been. Tommy talks to him about Ultron being inside his mind, and it seems like they visualize Ultron as driving his body using the giant ship's wheel, like he's taking control of White Vision's body. We get a new captain at the ship. Not totally clear what's happening here, but it seems like Ultron tries to grab him and pull him aside here. Then I believe this scene of the people firing on him inside of this building is in real life, like this is actually happening in real life, and he's just in human form while this is happening. Probably another random mercenary who was hired to capture and take him in to whoever's hiring all these different people. And we also see White Vision get a more comic book accurate green and yellow suit from the comics. Now, it's not exactly like the comics, but it's closer to comic book green. And we get a really quick scene of him talking to Ultron on the phone, but behind him you see a whole bunch more of the other AIs, I think some additional ones that we didn't see previously in the trailer. There are a couple other people that are returning for this too. Raza is coming back from the original Iron Man movie. Maybe he has something to do with going after White Vision or something behind the antagonists in the movie. Emily Hampshire is playing Edith, so the Edith glasses are back, and Tiana Miller is playing Jocasta, so like I said, human form of Jocasta during this. There was also a really big Easter egg at the D23 Visionquest booth for this series for a character that we don't see during the trailer, and I think it's for the Jim Hammond Human Torch, the original Android version of Human Torch, created by Phineas T. Horton, who was an android, so it makes sense that they would include him in this actual series. There was a big Easter egg for him during Captain America, the First Avenger, paying off a super deep-cut Easter egg from one of the first Marvel movies. But it is not totally clear what role he plays in this actual series because there's so many AI consciousnesses living inside Vision's head.
What if I told you that in just a few short years, your automobile won't even have to touch the ground at all?
But as far as this connecting to Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars, I don't know what they're doing with White Vision or Billy or Tommy or even Scarlet Witch during Avengers Doomsday. I think that they're all meant to be back by the event of Avengers Secret Wars, and I do think that Scarlet Witch will be critical to what happens in Secret Wars, but I don't know how big the other character is going to be during that. It'd be weird if Vision does not show up in one of these big Avengers movies, but I do understand if they don't include every single character in all the Marvel movies. For the most part, I think this is just meant to conclude the WandaVision trilogy of the family reuniting with each other at the end of this, with the exception of Scarlet Witch. Like, at the end of this, they'll still be looking for Scarlet Witch, and she won't show up until the next big Avengers Doomsday or Avengers Secret Wars movie. Everybody post all your reactions in the comments below, and let me know if you spotted any Easter eggs or references in the footage that I didn't talk about in the video. I did a little bit better job this time because I wasn't wearing the Cyclops visor, so I was able to actually see the footage. Marvel released footage for a bunch of other things at their D23 panel, like the X-Men 2028 movie, Avengers Doomsday. I'm working on videos for all that stuff. Some of it I've already done videos for, so everybody click here and here for all of those. I'll be sure to update the links as I post more of them. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.